L. Ron Hubbard's Introduction to Scientology Ethics lays out the system of ethics and morality that governs Scientology, with a particular focus on the conditions of existence, a hierarchy of states that individuals are expected to move through to improve their ethical standing and effectiveness. On the surface, the framework appears methodical, presenting step-by-step programs to resolve personal or organizational problems. But in reality, it functions as a tool for control, surveillance, and dependency. The conditions, especially the lower ones like confusion, treason, and enemy, are less about self-discovery or personal growth and more about breaking down autonomy, isolating individuals, and coercing them into compliance with Scientology's authoritarian structure. This system masquerades as a path to spiritual advancement, but ultimately destabilizes the individual while strengthening the church's control over their life. The conditions of existence system is structured as a ladder, starting with the lowest states, confusion, treason, enemy, and doubt, and progressing through higher but equally rigid conditions such as liability, non-existence, and power. Hubbard's inspiration for this framework appears to be a blend of military discipline, rote self-help models, and behaviorist psychology, simplified into a formulaic system. The step-by-step approach, where one condition leads directly to another, mirrors rigid disciplinary structures like those found in hierarchical organizations, particularly the military, an environment Hubbard was familiar with due to his own naval career. However, instead of fostering teamwork or accountability, Hubbard's conditions path functions as a psychological trap. Individuals are required to confess perceived failures, turn over personal information, and essentially reprogram their thinking to align with Scientology's demands. This rote process removes critical thinking and fosters dependency on the church, as only Scientology provides the means to move up the conditions. In practice, the lower conditions are especially destructive. For example, the confusion condition, the lowest on the hierarchy, is defined as a state in which a person is lost and has no understanding of their environment. The formula to get out of this condition requires the individual to find out where they are, but this vague instruction often results in being assigned to Scientology's ethics officers, who interrogate and evaluate the individual. This is not self-discovery, it is surveillance. Moving up through conditions like treason and enemy involves confessing perceived wrongdoings, real or imagined, identifying those whom one has wronged, and often publicly apologizing or writing amends projects. These steps encourage individuals to divulge personal information that the church can later use to maintain leverage over them, creating a culture of fear and secrecy. Furthermore, individuals are expected to cut ties with suppressive persons, SPs, anyone critical of Scientology, including family and friends, deepening isolation and dependence on the church. The rote nature of these programs further reveals their manipulative intent. Hubbard's formulas for each condition are framed as universal solutions, but lack the flexibility to account for individual circumstances. For instance, someone assigned to liability must deliver an effective blow to the enemies of the group they have been pretending to be part of to regain good standing. This vague directive essentially forces individuals to publicly prove their loyalty, often through over-the-top gestures like disowning critics, performing unpaid labor, or aggressively recruiting for Scientology. These actions are not about self-improvement, but about demonstrating submission to the church. The process becomes a cycle of surveillance, punishment, and coerced loyalty, with each condition designed to reinforce the church's control while further eroding the individual's independence. The system's true harm lies in its social dynamics. When someone is assigned a lower condition, they are effectively shunned within the Scientology community. Fellow members are instructed to minimize communication with them, isolating the individual and creating pressure to resolve their condition quickly. This mild form of ostracism, coupled with love bombing once they move up in standing, is classic cult manipulation. The lower conditions are not just disciplinary tools. They are psychological weapons designed to destabilize individuals and make them desperate to regain their place within the group. The result is a person who is more pliable, more isolated from outside influences, and more dependent on Scientology for validation. Ultimately, Hubbard's ethics system is not about ethics at all. It is about control. While it claims to provide a pathway for personal growth and group harmony, the rigid structure, rote formulas, and punitive measures ensure that individuals are stripped of agency and bound more tightly to the Church's authority. The conditions of existence serve as both carrot and stick, offering the illusion of progress while ensuring compliance, surveillance, and submission. Far from empowering individuals, Introduction to Scientology Ethics is a blueprint for psychological domination disguised as self-help, one that leaves its followers isolated, vulnerable, and utterly dependent on Scientology's approval.